Story. Chapter 1. Seeds of Doubt. Alfonso Hudson sat in his home office, reviewing security protocols for his latest client, when he heard the distinct sound of Candy's laughter floating through the walls. It wasn't her usual forced social laugh, the one she used at dinner parties or when meeting his colleagues. No, this was different. This was the genuine, carefree laugh he hadn't heard from her in years. The sound made him pause. His military-trained instincts, honed through years of combat and security work, detected something off about the situation. He glanced at his watch, 6:30 p.m., 2 hours earlier than his usual return time. Moving silently through the house, Al approached their bedroom. The laughter stopped abruptly as his footsteps creaked on the hallway floor. Through the partially open door, he caught a glimpse of Candy scrambling to end her phone call. "Oh, I have to go now," she said hurriedly. Yes. Goodbye." Al pushed the door open. Candy sat on their bed, her designer outfit pristine despite the late hour, her phone clutched tightly in her manicured hands. "You're home early," she said, her voice carrying a hint of accusation. "Meeting finished sooner than expected," Al replied, studying her face. "Who were you talking to?" "Just Sharon from the real estate office," Candy answered, standing up and smoothing her skirt. "We were discussing a potential listing." Al noticed how she angled her body away from him, subtly shielding her phone screen. "Must have been quite the listing to make you laugh like that." "Oh, you know Sharon. She always has the funniest stories about her clients." Candy moved toward their en-suite bathroom, her heels clicking against the floor. "I need to freshen up. Are you hungry? We could order in." Al watched as she disappeared into the bathroom, taking her phone with her. Through the door, he heard the distinct sound of another message notification. Over the next few days, Al observed similar patterns. Candy would step outside to take calls, claiming poor reception inside the house. She'd turn her phone face down whenever he entered the room, small changes in behavior that his security background wouldn't let him ignore. One evening, as they sat in their living room, Candy brought up the subject of moving. "This house is getting a bit cramped, don't you think?" she said, scrolling through her phone. "I saw this beautiful property in the Oakwood district. 5 bedrooms, a pool, wine cellar. Our house has plenty of space for 2 people," Al replied, noting how she avoided eye contact. "But think about the future, darling. We could entertain more. Plus, the furniture here is getting dated. We need something more sophisticated." Al remembered their bank account balance. His security consulting business provided a comfortable living, but nothing close to what Candy seemed to be describing. "And how do you suggest we afford this upgrade?" "Oh, you worry too much about money," she waved dismissively. "There are always ways." Before Al could press further, the doorbell rang. Stanley Alvarez stood on their porch, his expression grim. Stan's presence at this hour meant something was wrong. They'd been friends long enough for Al to read the signs. "Al, got a minute?" Stan asked, his eyes flickering briefly to Candy. "Need to discuss that Thompson background check?" Candy rolled her eyes. "I'll leave you boys to your work talk." She grabbed her phone and headed upstairs, already dialing someone. In AL's office, Stan didn't waste time with pleasantries. He pulled out a folder and spread several documents across the desk. "Remember that routine check you asked me to run on the Thompson Corp executives?" Stan's voice was low, measured. "Found something interesting in the financial records. Not about Thompson, but..." He pushed forward a bank statement. "Look at these transfers." Al scanned the document. Large sums of money, regular deposits into an account he didn't recognize, all from one source. Rex Potter Enterprises. "That account..." Stan pointed to the receiving end. "It's linked to Candy." Al's jaw tightened. "How long?" 6 months of transfers. "But that's not all." Stan pulled out surveillance photos. These were taken at the Golden Palm Hotel. Different dates, always late at night. The photos showed Candy entering the hotel's private elevator with a well-dressed man, Rex Potter himself. Al recognized him from business magazines and charity galas. Each photo timestamp showed times when Candy had claimed to be at late showings or client dinners. "There's more," Stan continued, his voice heavy with concern. "They've booked a cruise. 7 days, luxury suite. Leaves next week." AL's military training kicked in, pushing down the surge of emotions, threatening to overwhelm him. How did you find this? Started as a coincidence. Potter's name came up in the Thompson investigation. Then I noticed the money trail. Didn't feel right keeping it from you, brother. Al stood up, his movements controlled despite the rage building inside him. I need to verify this myself. Already thought of that, Stan replied. Got you covered. Later that night, after Candy had gone to bed, Al sat in his office, planning his next move. He announced a business trip to Atlanta, watching Candy's reaction carefully during breakfast. A whole week? She asked, trying to hide her excitement behind a concerned frown. That's unusual for you. Big client, big contract, Al replied, studying her face. I'll leave tomorrow morning. Candy kissed him goodbye the next day, her lips barely touching his cheek. Be safe, darling. Don't work too hard. Al drove away, circled the block, and parked where he could observe their house. 30 minutes later, Candy emerged, dressed in an outfit he'd never seen before, carrying a shopping bag from a luxury boutique. He followed her to a high-end hotel, watching as she met Rex Potter in the lobby. They disappeared into the elevator together, emerging 2 hours later. Candy's hair was slightly disheveled, her lipstick refreshed but not quite even. Back at home, Al accessed their shared computer. The browser history revealed searches for luxury cruises, 5-star hotels, and high-end real estate listings. In their closet, hidden behind her winter coats, he found a new designer bag, worth more than 3 months of his income. The evidence mounted, each discovery fueling his growing rage. But Al remained calm, his military training taking over. This wasn't a time for emotional reactions. This required strategy, planning, and most importantly, patience. He called Stan. I need you to dig deeper. Everything you can find on Rex Potter. Every account, transaction, skeleton in his closet. Already on it, Stan replied. And Al? Whatever you're planning, I've got your back. I know, brother. I know. The next few days revealed more than Al had imagined. Stan's investigation uncovered a web of lies and deception. The cruise wasn't just a vacation, it was meant to be Candy's escape. First-class tickets to Europe were booked for after their return. New bank accounts had been opened in her name in Switzerland. The pieces fell into place, forming a picture that made Al's blood run cold. His wife wasn't just having an affair. She was planning to leave him, taking everything she could. But fate had different plans. Stan's urgent call came during a client meeting. Al, get somewhere safe. Now. What's wrong? Got word from my contact in the underground. Someone put a hit out on you. Professional job, scheduled for tonight. Al's training kicked in immediately. Source. Meeting at the Golden Palm Hotel. Same place Candy meets Potter. The revelation should have shocked him, but somehow, it didn't. In his gut, he'd known this was coming. Candy wouldn't risk leaving loose ends. Send me everything you have on the hitman, Al commanded, his voice deadly calm. I'll handle this. Al, maybe we should call the police. No, not yet. First, we play this my way. Al set his trap carefully. He made sure he was visible entering his house that evening, then positioned himself in the darkness of his office. The hitman was good, but Al was better. Years of combat experience had taught him to sense danger before it struck. The click of the back door lock was almost imperceptible. Almost. Al waited until the hitman was fully inside before making his move. The fight was brief but brutal. The hitman had skill, but he wasn't expecting a trained combat veteran. Within minutes, Al had him subdued, zip-tied to a chair in the garage. Who hired you? Al's voice was cold, calculating. The hitman spat blood. You know I can't. Al pressed down on a pressure point, causing the man to gasp in pain. Wrong answer. Let's try again. After 20 minutes, the hitman broke. He revealed everything. The meeting with Rex Potter, the payment details, and most importantly, the burner phone with recorded conversations. Al played the recordings, his face hardening as he listened to his wife's voice. This needs to be done, Rexy. I can't live like this anymore. Don't worry, my love. Once he is gone, we can be together forever and enjoy our lives. Make it quick and make it clean. The hitman watched as Al's expression changed, becoming something darker, more dangerous. Look, man, this was just business. Nothing personal. You're right, Al replied, his voice devoid of emotion. This is business. And now you work for me. The hitman, sensing his only way out, agreed quickly. Al made it clear, cooperate with the investigation, testify when needed, and maybe avoid a maximum sentence. Later that night, Al found himself at Murphy's bar, a quiet place near his house. Behind the bar, Madeline Duncan watched him with understanding eyes as he nursed his whiskey. Want to talk about it? She asked, wiping down the bar. Al looked up, considering. There was something about Maddie that invited confidence. Maybe it was the lack of judgment in her eyes, or maybe it was just that she seemed to understand darkness. My wife hired someone to kill me, he said simply. Maddie didn't gasp or offer empty sympathies. Instead, she poured him another drink. Tell me. So he did. He told her everything, the affair, the plans, the hitman. Maddie listened, occasionally nodding, her eyes showing recognition of the pain he described. I've been where you are, she finally said. Different situation, same betrayal. Want my advice? Al nodded. Don't let anger cloud your judgment. You want revenge? Fine, but serve it cold. Use that military brain of yours. Make them suffer, but do it smart. I'm going to destroy them, Al said, his voice carrying absolute conviction. Good, Maddie replied, her eyes hard. Just remember, the best revenge isn't just about hurting them. It's about taking everything they value. Pride, status, security. Take it all. Al looked at her with new respect. You sound like you speak from experience. Let's just say my ex learned the hard way that appearances can be deceiving. She smiled, but it held no warmth. So, what's your plan? They're taking a cruise next week. Their little love boat vacation. Seems like the perfect place for a reunion. Just be careful. Men like Potter, they don't play fair. Neither do I. Not anymore. Chapter 2. The Hit. The morning sun had barely risen when AL's phone vibrated with Stan's call. He was at work, reviewing security footage for a client when Stan's voice came through, tight with urgency. Get out of there now. I'll drop everything and move. AL's muscles tensed at his friend's tone. Talk to me. My contact just sent word. There's a professional hit scheduled on you. The person who ordered it had a meeting with your wife yesterday. AL's hand tightened on his phone. Location? The hit's planned for tonight. They know your routine, Al. They know you work late on Thursdays. The meeting location, Stan? A pause. Golden Palm Hotel. Same place where, you know? Al shut down his computer, his movements precise and controlled. Send me everything you have on this hitman. And Stan? Keep digging. I want to know who else is involved. Already on it. But Al, maybe we should call in some backup. Police. No police. Not yet. Al's voice turned cold. This ends my way. Al drove home through back roads, his military training kicking in as he checked for tails. His mind raced through scenarios, planning, calculating. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was war. He prepared his house meticulously. Security cameras repositioned, furniture subtly moved to create choke points, lights adjusted to create blind spots. The garage became his interrogation room, tools laid out. The hitman arrived at 9:47 p.m., picking the back door lock with professional skill. Al watched through his security feed as the man moved through the house, a silenced pistol held ready. Al waited in the darkness of his study, controlling his breathing. The hitman's footsteps were nearly silent, nearly. One step, two steps. The attack was swift and brutal. Al exploded from the shadows, his elbow connecting with the hitman's throat before the man could raise his weapon. They crashed into the hallway, the hitman recovering quickly, showing his professional training. A knife appeared in the hitman's hand, slashing in practiced arcs. Al blocked, countered, his combat experience evident in every move. The fight was intense but brief. Within minutes, the hitman lay face down, Al's knee in his back, zip ties securing his wrists. In the garage, under harsh fluorescent lights, the interrogation began. Who hired you? Al's voice was measured, controlled. The hitman remained silent. Al applied pressure to specific points, using techniques he'd learned in special operations. Let's try again. Who hired you? 20 minutes later, the hitman broke. He revealed everything. The meeting with Rex Potter, the payment details, the planned alibi. Most importantly, he had recorded conversations on his burner phone. Al played the recordings, each word from his wife's voice driving his rage deeper. This needs to be done, Rexy. I can't live like this anymore. Don't worry, my love. Once he is gone, we can be together forever and enjoy our lives. Make it quick and make it clean. The hitman watched Al's face, seeing the change come over it. Look, I can help you. Give you names, dates, everything. Yes, Al replied, his voice devoid of emotion. You will. Because right now, I'm your only chance at avoiding a maximum sentence. The hitman nodded quickly, understanding his position. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with how Potter contacted you. Hours later, Al sat in Murphy's bar, the weight of betrayal heavy on his shoulders. Maddie watched him from behind the bar, her experienced eyes reading his tension. You look like you've had one hell of a day, she said, placing a whiskey in front of him. Al looked up, meeting her understanding gaze. You could say that. Want to talk about it? He studied her for a moment. Something in her eyes spoke of personal experience with darkness. My wife tried to have me killed today. Maddie didn't flinch. Instead, she pulled up a bar stool. Tell me. Al revealed everything. The affair, the planned murder, the hitman in his garage. Maddie listened without interruption, occasionally nodding in understanding. I've been there, she finally said. Different scenario, same betrayal. Want some advice? I'm listening. Revenge is like fine wine, best served cold. Don't let anger drive you. Calculate. Plan. Make them suffer, but do it smart. I'm going to destroy them, Al stated, his voice carrying absolute conviction. Good. Maddie's eyes hardened. Just remember, true destruction isn't just physical. Take everything they value. Pride, status, security. Leave them with nothing. You sound like you know about this firsthand. A dark smile crossed her face. Let's just say my ex learned some valuable lessons about consequences. Chapter 3. The Calm Before the Storm. The marina's salty air filled Al's lungs as he inspected the motorboat. Small, fast, and purchased under a false name. Perfect for their needs. Stan stood beside him, reviewing satellite maps of the cruise ship's route on his tablet. She's a beauty, Stan commented, patting the boat's hull. How'd you find her? Contact from my contractor days. No questions asked, cash only. Al checked the fuel capacity. Range? More than enough. The cruise ship makes 3 stops. We can intercept at any point. Al nodded, his mind already mapping contingencies. What about the captain? Wilson Garza. 20 years experience, clean record, known for running a tight ship. Stan showed Al the captain's file. My sources say he's straight as an arrow, but has a strong sense of justice. Good. He'll be crucial for this to work. Al pulled out his satellite phone. Time to make contact. The call to Captain Garza was carefully worded. Al presented the evidence, the murder plot, the recordings, the hitman's confession. The captain listened in silence. Mr. Hudson, Garza finally spoke. What exactly are you planning? Justice, Captain. Nothing more, nothing less. Al's voice was steady. No passengers or crew will be harmed. You have my word. A long pause followed. Send me the evidence. All of it. I'll review it and contact you tomorrow. 24 hours later, Garza called back. I'm in, but on one condition. Everything stays legal and controlled. Understood, Captain. I'll send you the details through secure channels. Back at his house, Al and Stan finalized their plans. Maps spread across the dining room table. Satellite images of the cruise ship's route marked with potential intercept points. Primary approach here. Al pointed to a port location. Back up here and here. If something goes wrong, we extract through these routes. Stan studied the plans. You're really going to confront them in front of everyone? Maximum impact. They wanted to humiliate me with a quick, quiet death. I want them to feel the weight of their actions in front of witnesses. And after, Al's eyes hardened. After, they face justice. Real justice. The kind that destroys reputations, bank accounts, and futures. Stan nodded slowly. I've got my network ready. The moment you give the signal, every media outlet in the country gets the full story. Business fraud, murder plot, everything. Good. Al stood, rolling up the maps. They thought I was weak, easily disposed of. Time to show them how wrong they were. Later that evening, Al returned to Murphy's bar. Maddie was waiting, concern evident in her eyes. You look like a man on a mission, she said, serving his usual whiskey. Last preparations. Al took a sip. Everything's ready. You sure about this? Once you start, there's no going back. Al met her gaze. They crossed that line when they tried to have me killed. Maddie nodded, understanding in her eyes. Just remember what I said. Keep your head clear. Revenge is best served with a steady hand. I remember. Al finished his drink. Thank you, Maddie, for everything. Just be careful out there. And Al? She touched his hand briefly. Make them regret ever underestimating you. Al left the bar, his resolve stronger than ever. Tomorrow, he would begin dismantling the lives of those who betrayed him. The military strategist in him had planned for every contingency. The wounded husband in him demanded justice. They wanted him dead and buried. Instead, they'd awakened something far more dangerous. A man with nothing left to lose and the skills to make them pay. The storm was coming, and when it hit, it would leave nothing but destruction in its wake. Chapter 4. Public Humiliation. The luxury cruise ship gleamed under the afternoon sun, its passengers enjoying their third day at sea. On the main deck, Candy leaned against the railing, champagne flute in hand, while Rex massaged her shoulders. Just think, she purred. In a few days, we'll be free to do this whenever we want. Rex kissed her neck. No more sneaking around. No more. The ship's speakers crackled to life, interrupting their moment. Captain Garza's voice resonated across the deck. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our surprise guest speaker for today's special event, Mr. Alfonso Hudson. Candy's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the deck. Rex's hands froze on her shoulders. Around them, other passengers turned toward the main stage area, curious about the announcement. That's impossible, Candy whispered, her face draining of color. He can't be here. Rex grabbed her arm. Stay calm. It must be someone else. But when Al stepped onto the stage, his presence commanded attention. He wore a crisp black suit, his military bearing evident in his posture. His eyes found Candy in the crowd, and she shrank back against Rex. Thank you, Captain Garza. Al's voice carried across the deck. Today, I'm here to share a story about betrayal, murder, and justice. Captain Garza stood beside him, holding a remote control. With a nod from Al, he pressed play. The ship's speakers projected a familiar conversation. This needs to be done, Rexy. I can't wait to get him out of my life. Candy's recorded voice echoed across the deck. Passengers turned to stare at her, recognition dawning on their faces. Don't worry, darling. By the time you are back from cruise, he will be in grave. Rex's voice followed, causing murmurs to ripple through the crowd. An elderly woman near them gasped, clutching her pearls. For those who don't know me, Al continued, his voice steady. I'm the husband these two conspirators tried to have killed last week. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. A man in a business suit pulled his wife away from where Candy and Rex stood, as if their presence was toxic. But perhaps you'd like to hear more? Al gestured to the screen behind him, where documents began to appear. Mr. Potter, your business associates might be interested in these financial records. Rex lunged forward, pushing through the crowd. Turn that off. You have no right. No right? Al's laugh held no humor. Like you had no right to plot my murder? Please, Mr. Potter, enlighten us all about rights. Security guards moved to block Rex's path to the stage. On the screen, document after document revealed fraudulent transactions, fake accounts, and illegal dealings. You're ruining everything. Candy screamed, mascara running down her cheeks. No, Candy, you did that yourself. Al's voice cut through her hysteria. When you decided my life was worth less than your ambitions. Rex made another attempt to reach the stage, but this time Al met him halfway. Rex threw a wild punch, which Al blocked. In one fluid motion, Al countered with a strike that sent Rex sprawling on the deck. "Mr. Potter," Al addressed the groaning man. "I wouldn't try that again. Unlike your hitman, I fight back." A woman in the crowd raised her phone, recording everything. More passengers followed suit, their devices capturing the unfolding drama. These people, Al addressed the crowd, plotted a murder while planning their luxury vacation. They hired a professional killer while booking spa treatments. They scheduled my death between wine tastings and shore excursions. Candy tried to flee, but Captain Garza's security team blocked her path. "This isn't fair," she wailed. "Fair?" Al's voice turned harsh. "Was it fair to plan my murder? To celebrate my planned death with champagne and caviar?" The evidence continued to play on the screen. Bank statements, recorded conversations, the hitman's confession. Each revelation drew more gasps and disgusted looks from the passengers. Mr. Potter's business partners might be interested to know that their investments funded not just this cruise, but also the down payment for my assassination. Al pointed to specific documents. "The account numbers are quite clear." Rex struggled to his feet, his designer's suit disheveled. "I'll sue you for this." "You'll what?" "I'll cut him off." "Call your lawyers?" "The same ones who helped you embezzle millions?" "They're probably busy right now, dealing with the federal investigation I triggered this morning." A businesswoman in the crowd stepped forward. "I've invested with Potter Enterprises. Are you saying our money was used to fund illegal activities?" Al finished for her. "The documentation is there. Feel free to contact the SEC. They received copies of everything an hour ago." The crowd's mood turned ugly. Former admirers of Rex's wealth and status now looked at him with contempt. Women who had envied Candy's lifestyle moved away from her in disgust. "You can't prove anything," Rex tried one last time. Al smiled, but his eyes remained cold. "Your hitman disagreed. He was quite cooperative after I convinced him to rethink his career choices. The sun set on a very different cruise than the one Candy and Rex had planned. Their fellow passengers treated them like pariahs, moving away when they entered rooms, falling silent when they passed. As I watched them retreat to their cabin under security escort, he felt no satisfaction, only cold determination. This was just the beginning of their punishment. The real pain would come from watching their carefully constructed world crumble piece by piece. Chapter 5. Psychological Warfare. Captain Garza had Candy and Rex confined to their luxury suite, now transformed into an opulent prison. 2 security guards stood outside their door, while cameras monitored their movements. Inside the suite, Candy paced frantically. "This can't be happening. He was supposed to be dead." "Shut up," Rex snapped, his usual smooth demeanor cracking. "The walls have ears." As if to confirm his paranoia, the suite speakers activated. "Good evening, Candy." Al's voice filled the room. "Enjoying your cruise?" Candy screamed, throwing a crystal vase at the speaker. It shattered uselessly against the wall. Now, Al's voice continued. "That's no way to treat the ship's property. Then again, destruction seems to be your specialty." "Stop this," Rex shouted at the ceiling. "You've had your fun." "Fun?" Al's tone turned sharp. "Like the fun you had planning my death? Tell me, Rex, did you enjoy choosing my hitman like you choose your wines?" Throughout the day, Al's voice would return at random intervals, sometimes with questions, sometimes with revelations about their past actions. Each message was calculated to strip away their confidence. "Remember our anniversary dinner last month, Candy? When you said you had a headache and went home early? The hotel's security cameras caught you meeting Rex in the presidential suite 30 minutes later." Candy curled up on the bed, covering her ears. But Al's voice continued, relentless. "Did you know, Rex, that your business partner James has been cooperating with the SEC? He had quite a lot to say about those offshore accounts." Rex threw his phone against the wall in frustration. "Make it stop." But it didn't stop. Hour after hour, Al's psychological warfare continued. He played their recorded conversations at random times, letting other passengers hear their callous planning through the ship's PA system. In the ship's security office, Captain Garza watched the surveillance feeds. "You're breaking them," he observed as Al prepared another message. "They're doing it to themselves," Al replied. "I'm just holding up a mirror." The captain studied him. I've seen revenge before, but this is something else. This isn't revenge, Captain. This is justice. On the other side of the ship, Stan worked with his network of contacts, feeding media outlets a steady stream of information about Rex's business fraud and the murder plot. By evening, the story had gone viral. Al received a text from Maddie. Just saw the news. You okay? Better than them, he replied. Back in the suite, Candy and Rex's relationship began to crack under pressure. This is your fault. Candy screamed at Rex. Your hitman failed. My fault. Rex grabbed her arms. Who wanted him dead in the first place? Who couldn't wait to get her hands on my money? Their argument was interrupted by Al's voice. Trouble in paradise? Get out of our heads. Candy threw herself against the door, but it remained firmly locked. You put me in this position. Al's voice remained calm. Actions have consequences. It's time you learned that. The next morning, Al arranged a mock trial in the ship's main theater. Passengers served as jury members, while Captain Garza presided as judge. The evidence was presented: financial records, surveillance photos, recorded conversations, the hitman's sworn statement. Candy and Rex were brought in under guard. They looked disheveled, their designer clothes wrinkled, their composure shattered. This isn't legal, Rex protested weakly. Consider it a preview, Al replied. The real trial will be much worse. The mock jury's verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. Though not legally binding, the public condemnation hit harder than any legal punishment. As they were led back to their suite, Al's voice followed them. How does it feel to be judged by your peers? To have your true nature exposed? That night, Candy tried to send a message to her family, begging for help. The reply came through the suite speakers in Al's voice. They've seen the evidence, Candy. No one's coming to save you. Rex attempted to contact his lawyers, but Al had been thorough. His legal team had abandoned him, distancing themselves from the scandal. Your empire's falling, Rex, Al's voice informed him. Check the stock market. Rex rushed to the suite's television, only to find news reports about his company's plummeting stock prices and mass resignations of board members. Stop, Candy whimpered. Please, Al. We'll give you anything. Anything? Al's voice held no mercy. Can you give me back my trust? My marriage? The life you tried to take? The psychological torture continued, measured and relentless. Al used their own words against them, their own actions as weapons. He didn't need physical violence. Their guilty consciences did the work for him. In the ship's bar, Maddie's voice came through on Al's phone. Remember what I said about cold revenge? I remember, Al replied, watching the security feed of Candy crying in the suite. This is just the beginning. Chapter 6. The Price of Treachery. As the cruise ship approached its final port, Al's plan entered its final phase. Captain Garza coordinated with local authorities, ensuring a smooth transfer of custody. In their suite, Candy and Rex had stopped talking to each other. The strain of constant surveillance and psychological pressure had shattered their relationship. The police are waiting, Al's voice announced. Along with the media, Rex slumped in his chair. You've destroyed everything. No, you did that yourselves. I just exposed the truth. The truth had indeed spread far. Stan's network had ensured that story reached national media. News helicopters circled the ship, capturing footage of the disgraced couple's impending arrest. Your stocks are worthless, Al informed Rex. Your board has resigned. Your investors are suing. How does bankruptcy feel? Candy stared at her reflection in the suite's mirror. Her designer clothes couldn't hide the defeat in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. Save it for the judge, Al's voice replied. I'm sure they'll be very interested in hearing how you planned my murder. The ship docked under heavy media coverage. Police officers boarded, accompanied by federal agents. Captain Garza led them to the suite. Candace Hudson and Rex Potter, the lead officer, announced, You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and various financial crimes. As they were led out in handcuffs, their fellow passengers lined the corridors, phones recording their walk of shame. The once proud couple shuffled past, heads down, avoiding the accusing stares. On the dock, reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Hudson, why did you plot to kill your husband? Mr. Potter, What happened to the investor funds? Did you really plan the murder during this cruise? Neither answered. They couldn't. Al had broken them completely. In the ship's control room, Captain Garza turned to Al. That's the end of it? For now. Al watched through the window as police cars drove away with his wife and her lover. The legal system will handle the rest. You're a dangerous man, Mr. Hudson. Only to those who betray me. Stan waited in a car nearby, monitoring police frequencies. They're being processed now. No bail, flight risk. Good. Al looked at his phone, where news alerts kept coming in about Rex's business empire crumbling. How's the media coverage? Brutal. They're being crucified in the press. Your wife's family has publicly disowned her. Rex's business partners are falling over themselves to cooperate with investigators. Al nodded, satisfaction in his eyes. They wanted to kill me and live a life of luxury. Now they'll live in disgrace, watching their world burn. Captain Garza arranged for Al to leave the ship quietly, away from the media frenzy. As they said goodbye, the captain gripped Al's hand firmly. I've seen many things at sea, Garza said, but nothing like this. You didn't just defeat them. You destroyed them. They brought this on themselves, Al replied. I just made sure they couldn't escape the consequences. As Al drove away from the port, he received one last message from Maddie. Saw the news. They got what they deserved. Come by the bar when you're back. First drinks on me. The sun set on the cruise ship, but for Candy and Rex, a different kind of darkness was just beginning. They faced years in prison, financial ruin, and social exile. Their dreams of a luxurious life together had turned into a nightmare of their own making. Al had kept his promise. He had destroyed them completely, not with violence, but with truth. They had underestimated him, seen him as an obstacle to be removed. Instead, he had become their worst nightmare, a ruthless force of justice who had stripped away everything they valued. Their betrayal had awakened something dark in him, something that wouldn't rest until they had paid for their crimes. And pay they did, with their freedom, their reputation, and their future. This was the price of betrayal, complete and utter destruction. Chapter 7. Picking up the pieces. Al unlocked his front door, the house silent and different now. The space that once held Candy's presence felt cleaner, lighter without her deception poisoning the air. He walked through each room, noting items that needed to be removed. Her vanity table, her collection of designer shoes, the paintings she'd insisted on hanging. His phone buzzed with a message from Stan. News outlets are still running the story. Potter Enterprises stock dropped another 30% today. Good. I'll type back. Any word from the prosecution? They're building an airtight case. Between the hitman's testimony and those recordings, Candy and Rex aren't seeing daylight for a long time. Al moved to his office, powering up his laptop. Multiple emails waited, clients concerned about their security contracts, business partners seeking clarification. He'd need to rebuild parts of his life, but this time on his own terms. The doorbell rang. Stan stood outside, holding a stack of papers. Found something you need to see, Stan said, spreading documents across Al's desk. Candy and Rex didn't just drain your joint account. They were planning to liquidate your business assets too. Al studied the paperwork, his jaw tight. They had paperwork forged with my signature? Professional job too. Would have looked legitimate after your unfortunate accident. Stan pulled out more documents. But I've got our legal team working on recovering everything. Plus, with the criminal charges, we can sue them for damages. How much did they take? About 60% of your liquid assets. But here's the thing. We can prove malicious intent. With punitive damages, we could take everything they have left. Al nodded, his expression hard. Do it. They wanted my money? Let's take all of theirs. Stan made some calls, setting their legal team in motion. As he worked, Al noticed his friend watching him with concern. What's on your mind, Stan? You holding up okay? This whole thing. I'm not broken, if that's what you're asking. Al's voice carried steel. They tried to destroy me. Instead, I destroyed them. Now I rebuild. Speaking of rebuilding, Stan pulled out another folder. Remember that security firm merger we discussed last year? The timing might be good now. Al examined the proposal. Expanding into corporate investigations? With your military background and my PI network, we could own that market in 6 months. The idea appealed to AL's strategic mind. Draft a business plan. We'll need startup capital. Already done. Stan grinned. Had some time while watching Candy and Rex squirm on that cruise. They spent hours planning, the work helping Al focus on the future rather than the betrayal. As evening approached, Al headed to Murphy's bar. Maddie looked up as he entered, her face showing genuine concern. Heard you were back. How are you really doing? Taking inventory. Planning next steps. Al accepted the whiskey she poured. The house feels different. Different good or different bad? Different clean. Like lancing a wound. Maddie nodded, understanding in her eyes. I remember that feeling. After my ex. It's like finally being able to breathe again. You never told me what happened with him. Another time. Tonight's about you healing. She refilled his glass. You know, this bar is actually mine now. Bought out the owner last month. Al looked up, surprised. You never mentioned. Wanted to make sure it went through first. No more working for others. Her eyes held pride. We all rebuild, Al. It's how we rebuild that matters. Their conversation flowed naturally, touching on business, future plans, shared experiences. Al found himself relaxing, appreciating Maddie's straightforward nature and quiet strength. You should take some time, she suggested. Not to hide, to regroup. Plan your next move carefully. Al considered her words. My security consulting business needs restructuring anyway. Stan and I are planning something new. Good. Focus on that. Success is the best revenge. As Al drove home, he realized the anger that had fueled him had transformed into something else, determination. He'd build something stronger from the ashes of betrayal. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Al threw himself into training, spending hours at the gym, honing his body and mind. He studied new security systems, expanded his knowledge of corporate espionage, prepared himself for the next phase of his career. Stan proved invaluable, handling the legal proceedings while Al focused on their new business venture. They called it Hudson Alvarez Security Solutions, combining AL's military expertise with Stan's investigative skills. We've got 3 potential clients lined up, Stan reported during one of their planning sessions. Major corporations, worried about industrial espionage. They like your military background. Set up the meetings. We'll show them what real security looks like. The work helped, giving Al purpose beyond revenge. He destroyed his betrayers, yes, but now he would rise stronger than before. Chapter 8. Seeds of Regret. The prison visiting room buzzed with muted conversations as Al sat waiting. Through the reinforced glass, he watched Candy being led in, her designer clothes replaced by prison orange, her carefully maintained appearance showing signs of strain. She reached for the phone with trembling hands. Al, I didn't expect. Save it. His voice cut through her attempt at manipulation. I'm here for answers, not apologies. Candy's facade cracked slightly. What do you want to know? Why? Was our life really so terrible that murder seemed reasonable? She looked down at her hands. I always wanted more. The house, the car, our life, it felt small. Rexy promised me everything. Instead, he helped you plan my murder. Tears filled her eyes, but Al felt nothing. He'd seen her cry before, usually when she wanted something. I never meant what? To get caught? To have your perfect plan fall apart? Al's voice remained steady, controlled. You're not sorry you tried to kill me. You're sorry you failed. Through the glass, he watched her composure shatter. They're saying 20 years minimum. My family won't even take my calls. Actions have consequences. Candy, you chose this path. Please, Al. You have influence now. If you spoke to the judge. Al stood, cutting off her plea. Goodbye, Candy. Enjoy your new life. You earned it. He left her sobbing in the visiting room, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Outside, Stan waited in their company car. How'd it go? Exactly as expected. She tried to manipulate me again. Al checked his phone. Any news on Rex? His lawyers quit this morning. Seems they found some interesting documents they're legally obligated to share with prosecutors. Al smiled grimly. Rats leaving a sinking ship. They drove to their new office building, where their security consulting firm was taking shape. Inside, teams of analysts and investigators worked on client cases. Mr. Hudson, their receptionist, called out. Ms. Duncan called. She asked if you're still on for dinner. Al nodded, checking his watch. The relationship with Maddie had evolved naturally, built on mutual understanding and respect. Later that evening, at Murphy's bar after closing, Maddie poured them both a drink. Heard you visited Candy today, she said, studying his face. Needed to see something for myself. Al sipped his whiskey. Needed to confirm she hadn't changed. And still the same manipulative person. Still trying to use people to get what she wants. Maddie nodded. Some people never learn. My ex was the same way. Even after everything, he thought he could control me. You never told me that story. She was quiet for a moment. He was charming, successful, and completely ruthless. Used to beat me, then buy expensive gifts as apologies. One day, I decided enough was enough. What did you do? Let's just say he learned that quiet people can be dangerous too. She smiled, a hard edge in her expression. He's somewhere in Arizona now, broke and alone. Never knew what hit him. Al reached across the bar, taking her hand. We understand each other, don't we? We do. We both know sometimes justice needs a helping hand. Their relationship deepened, built on shared experiences and mutual respect. Neither needed to pretend or hide their darker sides. Meanwhile, Rex Potter's empire continued to crumble. His investors filed lawsuits, his board members resigned, and his reputation lay in tatters. Latest news, Stan reported one morning. Potter Enterprises filed for bankruptcy. Federal investigators found evidence of massive fraud going back years. Al reviewed the reports with satisfaction. And Rex? Suicide watch in prison. Seems he's not handling the fall from grace well. Any word from his former associates? They're scrambling to distance themselves. Nobody wants to be connected to him now. The destruction of Rex's business empire was complete. Everything he'd built, all his power and influence gone. Just as he'd planned to take Al's life, Al had taken everything that mattered to him. Candy's family maintained their silence, refusing her increasingly desperate letters. Al had made sure they received full documentation of her crimes, letting them make their own choice about contact. Her mother called. Stan mentioned during a briefing. Wanted to thank you for not involving them in the scandal. They're innocent in this. No need to punish them for her choices. The weeks leading up to the trial brought more revelations. Rex's fraudulent activities stretched back further than anyone had suspected, involving offshore accounts, fake companies, and widespread corruption. Prosecutors are adding charges, Stan reported. Money laundering, tax evasion, securities fraud. They're looking at 30 years minimum. I'll absorb the news with grim satisfaction. Make sure all evidence is properly handled. I want no legal loopholes. Already done. Our legal team's working with the prosecution. They won't escape justice this time. Chapter 9. The Final Verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the judge prepared to deliver the sentence. Al sat in the back row, watching Candy and Rex in their prison jumpsuits, their former arrogance replaced by defeat. In all my years on the bench, the judge began, I've rarely seen such a calculated and cold-blooded conspiracy. The evidence had been overwhelming. The hitman's testimony, the recorded conversations, the financial records, all painting a picture of murderous greed. Candace Hudson, you conspired to murder your husband for financial gain. Rex Potter, you actively participated in and funded this conspiracy, while simultaneously engaging in massive financial fraud. The judge paused, looking at each defendant. The court sentences you both to 25 years in federal prison. Additionally, Mr. Potter, you will face consecutive sentences for your financial crimes, totaling an additional 15 years. Candy collapsed in tears. Rex stared straight ahead, his face blank. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around Al. Mr. Hudson, how do you feel about the verdict? Justice was served, he replied simply, then walked away, leaving them shouting questions at his back. Stan waited in their car. Ready to close this chapter? More than ready. They drove to Murphy's bar, where Maddie had organized a small gathering. The place was closed to the public, just close friends celebrating the end of a long battle. To justice, Maddie raised her glass. To consequences, Al added, clinking his glass against hers. Later that night, as they sat alone at the bar, Maddie turned to Al. I've been thinking about that vacation you mentioned. The Caribbean? Why not? We both could use some time away. No revenge, no past, just us. Al considered her words. You know what? You're right. Let's do it. The next few weeks brought rapid changes. Al sold the house, not wanting to keep any reminders of his life with Candy. He and Maddie found a new place together, a fresh start for both of them. Their security firm flourished, gaining a reputation for thoroughness and discretion. Al and Stan's military background attracted high-profile clients, while their experience with corporate betrayal gave them unique insight into potential threats. We've got more clients than we can handle, Stan reported during a board meeting. Might need to expand sooner than planned. Al nodded, reviewing the projections. Start recruiting. Former military preferred. We'll train them our way. The business became more than just work. It became a mission to protect others from betrayal. Al's experience had taught him valuable lessons about trust and security. One evening, as Al and Maddie packed for their Caribbean trip, she noticed him looking thoughtful. Penny for your thoughts? Just thinking about how things change. A year ago, I thought my life was set. Now you're stronger, wiser. She touched his arm. And not alone. Al pulled her close. No, definitely not alone. They left for their vacation the next day, leaving Stan in charge of the firm. The Caribbean sun and sea helped wash away the last traces of bitterness, though Al knew he'd never forget the lessons learned. You know, Maddie said one evening on their hotel balcony, some people would have been broken by what you went through. I chose to be strengthened instead. Al watched the sunset. They thought they could destroy me. Instead, they made me more dangerous. To your enemies? To anyone who betrays trust. He turned to her. I protect what matters now. No compromise. Their relationship deepened during the trip, built on mutual understanding and shared strength. Both had faced betrayal, both had emerged stronger, and both understood the importance of loyalty. Back home, they started their new business venture together, a high-end security consulting firm specializing in personal and corporate protection. Their combined experiences made them uniquely qualified to spot potential threats. Al kept tabs on Candy and Rex through Stan's contacts. They served their sentences in separate federal prisons, their appeals denied, their futures destroyed by their own actions. Karma, Stan commented during one of their updates. They planned to kill you. Instead, they killed their own futures. Al nodded, satisfaction in his eyes. They chose their path. Now they live with the consequences. Life moved forward. Al and Maddie's relationship grew stronger, their business prospered, and their partnership with Stan expanded into new territories. They built something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. 1 year to the day after the verdict, Al stood in his new office, looking out over the city. He transformed from a trusting husband into something harder, stronger, more dangerous. The man who had once ignored red flags now spotted them instantly. The man who had once given second chances now dealt in consequences. Maddie entered, wrapping her arms around him from behind. Thinking deep thoughts? Thinking about change. About strength. He turned to face her. About building something unbreakable. Nothing's unbreakable, Al. But some things are strong enough to survive any storm. He kissed her, knowing she understood. They'd both been forged in betrayal's fire, emerged stronger, more resilient. The lessons learned would never be forgotten, the strength gained never wasted. The past was behind them, but its lessons remained. Trust must be earned, loyalty must be absolute, and betrayal must be met with unwavering justice. Al had learned these truths the hard way, and he'd spend the rest of his life making sure others learned them too, one way or another. Epilogue. 5 years later, Hudson Alvarez Security Solutions occupied the top 3 floors of a downtown high-rise, its sleek offices a testament to 5 years of explosive growth. Al Hudson stood in his executive office, reviewing the latest acquisition reports when Stan knocked on his door. Got a minute? Stan entered, carrying a thick folder. Just got some interesting intel from our contacts in the federal prison system. Al looked up from his desk, his face showing the same sharp focus that had helped build their empire. Candy or Rex? Both, actually. Stan spread several documents across AL's desk. Rex tried to commit suicide again last week. Third attempt this year. They've got him under constant watch now. His former business partners stripped the last of his hidden assets. He's got nothing left. And Candy? Still writing letters to her family. Still getting no response. Stan pulled out a prison report. She's been moved to medium security after good behavior, but she's not the same woman anymore. Prison changed her. The guards say she spends most of her time alone, avoiding other inmates. Al absorbed the information without emotion. The years had hardened his resolve rather than softened it. Any attempts to contact me? Monthly letters, like clockwork. All returned unopened, as per your instructions. Stan sat down across from his friend and business partner. Speaking of correspondence, Captain Garza sent an invitation. He's retiring next month. Wants us at his farewell party. A slight smile crossed Al's face. The good captain. Send him something appropriate from the company. And make sure he knows that security consulting position we discussed is still open. Their conversation was interrupted by Al's intercom. Mr. Hudson, Ms. Duncan is here for your lunch meeting. Send her in. Maddie entered, her business attire reflecting her new role as CEO of Duncan Security Services, the high-end personal protection firm she'd built from her original bar ownership. Marriage to Al had neither softened nor changed her. If anything, it had sharpened her natural talents for reading people and situations. Stan, she greeted with a warm smile. Staying for lunch? Can't today. Meeting with that tech company about their corporate espionage problem. He gathered his documents. You two enjoy. Oh, and Al, that situation in Singapore needs your attention before tomorrow. After Stan left, Maddie took his place across from Al. Singapore? Attempted hostile takeover of one of our client companies. They tried using some of Rex's old tactics. Al's expression turned grim. They'll learn the same lesson he did. Maddie nodded, understanding perfectly. Their marriage worked because they shared the same viewpoint on betrayal and consequences. Speaking of lessons, that former employee who tried to steal our client list just got sentenced. 3 years, plus fines. Good. People need to understand that actions have consequences. They had married 3 years ago in a private ceremony, with only Stan and a few trusted friends present. Their honeymoon had doubled as a business trip, establishing new security contracts across Europe. Both understood that their strength came from their shared experiences and mutual respect. Heard anything from Murphy's Bar lately? Al asked as they prepared to leave for lunch. Sold it last year to a good manager. Still drop by occasionally to make sure it's running right. Maddie gathered her purse. That's where we first really talked, you know? When you were planning your revenge. You gave good advice that night. Still do. She smiled, but her eyes held the same steel they'd always had. That's why our clients trust us to handle their security. We understand how betrayal works. Their security empire had grown beyond their initial expectations. Hudson Alvarez handled corporate security and investigations, while Duncan Security Services specialized in personal protection for high-net-worth individuals. Together, they'd created an unassailable position in the security industry. Later that afternoon, Al visited their training facility outside the city. Former military personnel went through rigorous programs, learning not just physical security but how to spot and prevent betrayal in all its forms. Al occasionally taught classes himself, using his experience as a real-world example. Remember, he told a group of trainees, betrayal doesn't just happen. There are always signs. Your job is to spot them before they become threats. The facility had become famous in security circles for its comprehensive approach. They didn't just teach protection, they taught prevention. Al's experience had shown him that physical security was only part of the equation. Stan managed their investigation division, his PI skills now supported by a network of specialists and cutting-edge technology. They'd solved cases that had baffled law enforcement, earned contracts with major corporations, and built a reputation for thoroughness that bordered on legendary. Latest tech company cases solved, Stan reported during their evening briefing. CFO was selling secrets to competitors. had it all documented and ready for prosecution before they even knew they had a problem. Clean? Absolutely. All evidence properly obtained and legally admissible. He'll be joining Candy and Rex in federal prison. Their reputation for handling corporate betrayal had made them the go-to firm for companies facing internal threats. AL's personal experience had given them unique insight into how betrayers think and operate. At home that evening, Al and Maddie relaxed in their penthouse apartment. The view of the city reminded them of how far they'd come from those days at Murphy's bar. Heard something interesting today, Maddie mentioned, sipping her wine. Remember my ex? The one I told you about? The abusive one you destroyed? She nodded. He tried starting over in Arizona. Failed. Tried Vegas. Failed again. Now he's working as a janitor in some small-town high school. Karma's got a long memory. So do we, Al replied, understanding completely. Their home reflected their shared philosophy, elegant but secure, beautiful but practical. No detail had been overlooked, no security measure ignored. They'd both learned the hard way that preparation prevents betrayal. The next morning brought news from their legal team. Another former associate of Rex's had been indicted for fraud, their investigation providing key evidence. That makes 17 of his former partners now facing charges, Stan noted during their morning meeting. His whole network's been dismantled. Good. Al reviewed the reports. What about those offshore accounts we traced? Frozen. Federal authorities are processing the paperwork now. Should be able to return the money to his victims within the month. Their company had expanded into asset recovery, helping victims of financial fraud reclaim what was stolen. It was satisfying work, turning their experience with betrayal into a force for justice. Maddie's business had grown as well. Duncan Security Services now protected some of the most prominent families in the country, their clients choosing them specifically because they understood how betrayal worked from personal experience. Had an interesting client meeting today, Maddie shared over dinner. Wife suspected her husband was plotting something similar to what Candy did. We investigated, found evidence, stopped it before he could act. She's filing for divorce tomorrow. Prevention is better than revenge, Al agreed, though his eyes hardened at the memory. They developed a sixth sense for detecting betrayal, their combined experiences making them virtually impossible to deceive. Clients came to them not just for protection, but for their unique insight into human nature. The years had taught them valuable lessons. Trust, once broken, could never be fully repaired. Betrayal, once attempted, must be met with absolute consequences. These principles guided both their personal lives and their business operations. 5 years after the cruise ship confrontation, their story had become something of a legend in certain circles. Not just the revenge aspect, but how they'd turned that experience into something powerful and positive. Got an interesting request, Stan mentioned during their weekly strategy meeting. University wants you to give a lecture on corporate security and betrayal prevention. Prestigious business school. Al considered it. Could be useful. Many future executives could benefit from understanding consequences. Their influence extended beyond just security now. They'd become experts in human nature, specifically in identifying and preventing betrayal in all its forms. Their experience had given them unique insight into how trust is broken and how it must be protected. One afternoon, Al received an unexpected letter from Captain Garza, now retired but still connected to their network. Saw something you might find interesting, the captain wrote. Rex Potter had another breakdown in prison. Keeps talking about how he used to be somebody. Now he's nothing. Thought you'd want to know your revenge is still working, even after all these years. Al shared the letter with Maddie that evening. She understood its significance. Not just the confirmation of Rex's destruction, but the lasting impact of consequences. Some lessons stay learned, she commented, her own experiences with revenge coloring her words. Their marriage had grown stronger over the years, built on a foundation of absolute trust and shared understanding. They'd both survived betrayal, both dealt out consequences, and both understood the importance of loyalty. The security empire they'd built reflected these principles. Their employees underwent rigorous background checks and continuous monitoring. Trust was earned, never given, and betrayal was met with swift, legal, but absolute consequences. Had an interesting call today, Stan mentioned during their monthly review. Remember that hitman Candy and Rex hired? He's being released next month. Served his time, cooperated fully. Keep tabs on him, Al instructed. Make sure he remembers the lessons he learned. Their network had grown vast over the years, with contacts in law enforcement, business, and security sectors worldwide. Information flowed freely to them, allowing them to stay ahead of threats and prevent problems before they developed. Maddie's business had expanded internationally, with offices in London, Dubai, and Singapore. Her personal protection teams were considered the best in the business, their training influenced by her own experiences with betrayal and survival. Interesting case in Dubai, she shared during a strategy session. Similar to what we dealt with. Husband plotting against wife, thinking he could get away with it. We shut it down before he could act. Did you share our story? Didn't have to. Our reputation preceded us. Their reputation had indeed grown beyond their original vision. They weren't just security consultants anymore. They were experts in human nature, specialists in preventing and responding to betrayal in all its forms. The years had proven their methods effective. Clients who followed their advice avoided betrayal. Those who ignored it often became cautionary tales. Their experience had taught them that trust must be protected through constant vigilance. 5 years after their confrontation on the cruise ship, Al and Maddie had built something remarkable from the ashes of betrayal. Their security empire stood as a testament to the power of turning pain into purpose, revenge into redemption. They'd never forgotten the lessons learned, never lowered their guard, never stopped working to prevent others from experiencing what they had. Their story had become more than just revenge. It had become a mission to protect others from betrayal's pain. Stan remained their loyal partner, his skills and network expanding with their operations. The trust between them had been forged in fire, tested by time, and proven unbreakable. As Al stood in his office one evening, watching the city lights below, Maddie joined him. They didn't need words to communicate their shared understanding. They'd both survived betrayal, both dealt out justice, and both built something stronger from the experience. Their security empire stood as a warning to those who would betray trust, a reminder that consequences are real and absolute. But it also stood as a beacon of hope, showing that survival was possible, that strength could be found in the darkest moments. The story of Al Hudson's revenge had become legend, but the empire he and Maddie built from that experience had become their true legacy. They'd turned personal pain into professional purpose, private revenge into public protection. 5 years later, they stood stronger than ever, their bond unbreakable, their mission clear. They would continue to protect, to prevent, to stand guard against betrayal in all its forms. The lessons they'd learned would never be forgotten, the strength they'd gained never wasted. Their story wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about transformation, about turning betrayal's poison into power, about building something unbreakable from broken trust. And they would continue their mission, protecting others from the pain they'd overcome, for as long as they could. The city lights flickered below, a reminder of all the lives they now touched, all the betrayals they prevented, all the trust they protected. They'd built something remarkable from revenge's ashes, and they would ensure its legacy continued, a testament to the power of consequences and the strength found in survival. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.